If I could go back and talk to my lower ranked self, I'd have some pretty hard truths to share, the kind of advice that would have saved me from wasting hundreds of hours grinding in frustration. Forget the typical tips you've heard a million times. This is about real, unfiltered advice on what actually works to rank up fast. If you're done being stuck and willing to make the changes that'll take you all the way to SSL, keep watching. Let's break down the mindset, mechanics, and strategies that separate those who stay stuck from those who've made it to the top. Let's get into it. The first thing I'd tell my younger self is to stop obsessing over flashy mechanics, whether it's double taps, flip resets, ceiling shots. Yeah, they look great, but if you're not solid on the basics, they're useless. And when I was lower ranked, I spent so much time trying to hit really insanely mechanical shots in free play, thinking it would make me a better player in general. But guess what? All of those fancy mechanics don't mean a thing if you can't hit a solid, reliable shot, if you can't rotate properly, or if you can't even position yourself effectively. If I could go back, I'd tell myself to spend that time working on things that actually matter for ranking up: basic shot accuracy, fast aerials, really solid 50-50s, and most importantly, positioning. Those fundamentals are what gets you through gold, through plat, diamond, even champ. They're the foundation you build on, but you can't skip them. Every hour spent perfecting those basics gets you closer to a higher rank. It's not really about messing around with the mechanics you can't consistently do in a game. Think of it kind of like building a house. Think of the flashy, kind of useless mechanics like decorations on the outside, but the fundamentals are kind of like the foundation. Without a solid foundation, the whole structure is going to collapse. And in Rocket League, that pressure comes in the form of higher level players who can read every quote unquote flashy move you attempt if you don't even know the basics. Here's a really practical tip that I used. Instead of spending an hour trying to land one flip reset, spend that hour in custom training packs, working on your consistency. Find packs that focus on ground shots, saves, and clears. I'll have a few in the description of this video, but at the end of the day, it really is personal preference, so I'd recommend you look around on your own too to find ones that you prefer the most, because everyone does have a different playstyle, but the key is to make every hit controlled and intentional. Once you've mastered those basics, you'll have a really solid foundation to build on, and then you can start using the mechanics that you want to be using. Here's a really harsh reality. You are the biggest factor in your rank, not your teammates. When I was stuck at lower ranks, every single game, I used to blame someone else. My teammates are trash. They keep whiffing. I'd be higher ranked if I had better teammates, but let's just be real. The only constant in all those games was me. And for you, the only constant in all of your games is you. Blaming teammates is just a way to cope. It's a way to avoid taking responsibility. If I could go back, I'd tell myself to look at every game, even the losses, and ask, what could I have done better? Maybe I missed a save because I was out of position. Maybe I overcommitted on offense and left the goal wide open. Once you start focusing on what you can control, you actually start improving. Every mistake is a lesson, but you'll never learn if you keep putting the blame on your teammates. So here's the actual advice. Own every game, good or bad. Look at your replays, figure out what actually happened, and fix it. A good exercise here is to watch a replay and pretend you're your own coach. What would you tell yourself if you were looking at your game from an outside perspective? Sometimes that little bit of objectivity can make all of the difference. It's easy to see mistakes in other people's games, but when you start analyzing your own with that same level of honesty, you'll see where you need to improve. Here's an even more specific action you can take. After a game, write down one thing you could have done better. It could be in your notes app on your phone. It could be on a piece of paper. It could be on the notepad app on your computer. Just one over time, and these little notes start to add up, and you'll notice recurring themes. Like maybe you're often really out of position or overcommitting, and then use those notes to guide what you focus on in practice. This one is huge. Consistency beats flash every single time. I used to think that ranking up was about pulling off really cool shots, but the truth is, it's about consistency. It's about being the most reliable player on the field game after game after game. Consistency in your hits, in your positioning, in your rotations. That's what actually wins games. If I could go back, I'd tell myself to focus on making every hit count. Don't just go for the ball because you can, go because you know it'll be productive. Work on consistently hitting the ball where you want it to go, whether that's a clear, maybe a pass, or a shot on net. When you're consistent, you don't have to rely on crazy mechanics that you're probably going to end up messing up and conceding a goal from. Your team can really rely on you to do your job every time, and that's how you really rank up. Here's a practical tip for this one. Instead of going for 10 flashy shots in free play like a triple flip reset, set a goal to hit 50 solid controlled shots into the net. Focus here on accuracy and control, and make sure you're hitting the shot exactly where you want it to go. Practicing this way builds the kind of consistency that matters in real games. High ranks are all about the little things done right over and over again. Think about it like this. Consistency is like building up a skill bank. Every time you execute a simple but effective shot or clear, you're adding to your skill bank, and that bank keeps you performing well even under pressure. Flashy plays are like lottery tickets. They might work once in a while, but they're not reliable. One of the biggest things that held me back was actually my mindset. I would tilt after pretty much every loss. I would let one bad game ruin my whole session, and if I lost a couple of games in a row, I'd get into a spiral. Here's the advice I'd give to my younger self. Treat every game as a lesson, whether you win or lose, and the only thing that matters is what you learn from it. It doesn't matter if you gain MMR or lose MMR. If you're just grinding ranked and getting frustrated every time you lose, you're not actually improving. You're just making yourself more annoyed and not wanting to play Rocket League again. What's funny is top players don't tilt and rage quit every time something goes wrong. It's actually really rare that you'll watch a pro player tilt. And the reason for this is because they stay super calm. They analyze what went wrong if they actually care, but 9 times out of 10, they don't care. They don't care if they win or lose because they're just playing to improve, because they know that ranked doesn't matter. And mental resilience is a skill. You need to train yourself to keep a cool head and focus on improvement, not just the rank. Stop worrying about your MMR every game and start focusing on becoming a better player, and your rank will follow that suit. A really practical exercise for this one is after each game, take a few deep breaths and give yourself a quick rundown. And I know this sounds kind of over the top for a video game, but it actually is what worked for me. And I would ask myself, what went right, what went wrong, and what's one thing you can focus on for the next game. This quick mental reset can keep you from spiraling, and it can actually help you approach each game with a clear mind, which will in turn make you play better. Here's another tip. If you feel like you're about to tilt after a tough loss, take a break. Don't go into another game knowing that if you lose this game, you're probably going to end up tilting and losing MMR. Just go into free play, hit some shots, or even step away from the game for a few minutes. Resetting your mind can keep you from making impulsive mistakes that just lead to more losses. Another thing I'd tell my younger self is to stop watching pro players or maybe even pro matches for entertainment and use them as a way to improve. When I was lower ranked, I used to watch pros just to see what they were doing, what the new mechanics were like, just to see the cool plays. But that's not how you learn, actually. Watching pro level gameplay can be really valuable, but only if you pay attention to the right things about it. Look at their positioning. Look at how they rotate, when they choose to challenge the ball, and when they decide to wait. Squishy Muffins actually posted a breakdown of a 3v3 pro player game, which he has crazy insights. I'll link that video in the description of this video, but I would highly recommend you watch it so that you can understand the insights of a really high ranked player. But they're not just hitting the ball every chance they get. They're making calculated decisions based on where everyone else is on the field. If I'd studied pro play with the mindset of learning rather than just for fun, I would have improved way faster. So here's the actual advice. Next time you watch a pro match, pick one player and focus on their specific decisions and try to understand why they're doing what they're doing, not just how they're doing it. And frankly, you're not going to understand everything they're doing unless you're close to SSL. Like a diamond watching Monkey Moon really isn't going to understand the reasoning for why Monkey Moon does everything he does, but you'll be able to get a pretty good idea. And one exercise you can do is watch a high-level match with the sound off, so you're fully focused on the gameplay and not the pretty distracting commentary. Pick a single player, like I said earlier, follow only them, and try to predict their next move based on the field setup. And this will train you to read the game better and make smarter plays in your own match. This will train you to read the game better and make smarter plays in your own matches. You'll know that you're good at this when you can predict what they are going to do and you get it right at least a few times. Part of it is luck, if I'm being honest, but that's kind of what I did to help me with knowing which mistakes are happening and what plays I should be making. Another tip is to make notes as you watch. Remember how I said earlier, make notes about each mistake you make in replays? We can use that same thing here. Write down one thing you notice about positioning, one thing about rotations, and even one thing about challenges. These notes can serve as just reminders as the next time you play when you're looking for things you want to specifically work on from your own replays. I used to avoid 1v1s. Honestly, they're tough. It's all on you, no teammates to bail you out, but if I could go back, I'd tell myself to grind ones, because that's where you learn the most about decision making, positioning, and even controlling the ball. Ones teaches you to stay calm under pressure. It teaches you to make smarter plays and adapt quickly. Every mistake is on you, which is the majority of the reason why everyone hates that mode. And every success is because of you too. There's no better way to build your skill and confidence than by playing 1v1, in my opinion. You'll get punished for every bad habit, and that's a good thing. Those games are brutal, but they force you to improve. So younger self, dice, get in there, take the losses and actually learn from them. A specific drill here that I wish I would have done is to focus on one thing per match here as well. Maybe you're working on shadow defense or timing your challenges better. Each game should have a goal, not just to win, but to refine a skill over time. You'll start seeing improvement, and those skills will carry over into other modes. All right, this might seem basic, but warming up before every session is a game changer. When I was starting out, I'd just jump straight into ranked. And half the time, my first few games were garbage because, frankly, I just wasn't warmed up. It's like trying to sprint without stretching first. You're pretty much setting yourself up to fail. If I could go back, I'd tell myself to spend at least 10 to 15 minutes in free play, practicing shots, doing quick custom training packs before each ranked session. It makes a huge difference. Warming up gets you mentally and physically ready. So you're not spending the first few games of your session just getting into the groove. It's a really small habit, but it can actually mean the difference between starting your session strong or starting on a loss streak, which is going to hurt your mental pretty much as soon as you start. What I would do is try doing a few minutes of shooting practice. Then I would maybe work on some aerials. Then I would run through some quick saves. You're not aiming for perfection here. It's just to get your fingers warmed, get your reflexes and focus warmed up. This routine will get you into the zone, and you'll notice a difference in your first few games. Consider creating a warm-up routine you can do every session. I actually have a warm-up routine on this channel. I'll link it in the description if you guys are interested in that, but even a 5-minute warm-up routine is better than nothing, and it can help you shake off the rust and jump into ranked with better focus and better reaction time. Another thing is that I used to play the same way every game, regardless of my teammates or opponents. Big mistake. In Rocket League, every match is different because every player is different. You have to adapt your playstyle based on who you're teamed up with and who you're playing against. If you've got a really aggressive teammate, I'd recommend to play a bit more conservatively. If your opponent is hyper aggressive, I'd play a bit more passive and look for counter opportunities and bait them into overcommitting. This adaptability is what separates higher ranked players from those who get stuck in lower ranks. So here's the advice. Every game, take a few seconds at the start to read your teammates and opponents and adjust your style to make the most of the situation. So that's my brutally honest advice to my younger, lower ranked self. I would say focus on the fundamentals, take responsibility for every single game, study the pros, warm up, grind ones, and most importantly, if you take one thing from this video, stop obsessing over rank. If you're serious about ranking up, these are the things that will actually make a difference. Thanks for watching. I have a Discord server I'll have linked in the description of this video. It's the best way to get in contact with me directly. See you on the next one. Peace.